All right, guys. So here's my list of the most underrated watch features, and this is going to cover analog, digital, all of the things, right? Automatic, all the things. So, in random order, number one is hacking hands. I've heard a few channels talk about how they do not care about hacking hands on a mechanical watch. I do, and here's why. Because every time that I read an analog watch, the first thing I look for is the seconds hand to see what position it is in, and then I look at the minutes and hours. That's just how I read the clock. Maybe I'm the only one, but that's how I read a clock when I look at it. So to go from every other watch that has, hacking capabilities to one that doesn't, it's kind of makes me slower reading the clock, and to me it's just an inconvenient thing. So to me that feature is incredibly underrated, and it's weird for me to hear about guys saying that they don't care if a watch has it or not. I definitely, it wouldn't stop me from buying a watch if I really wanted one, but it would definitely make me go with maybe a different option. So number two is lume slash an auto light, right? So basically just the ability to be able to look at my watch in a dark environment and know what time it is, for me is huge. Sorry, my watch was wrong. Is huge. And a prime example of this is I was at a movie, right? And I kept wanting to check the time because I was, basically you're on call from a certain time to a certain time, right? So my call time was coming up. So I was checking to see when I needed to turn my ringer on. So I kept checking the watch. It was actually this one, the Bulova Marine Star that I was wearing. And the lume was so fucking bright that not only did I not have to strain to see, what time it was in that dark environment, I could tell it never switched the shade of blue. Like, it was just intensely bright the entire 2 hours or whatever, the length of whatever Fantastic Four, however long that movie is. I could easily read the time. And that is just incredibly helpful. Also, another watch that highlighted that for me is the King, the G-Shock The King model. That one has the auto light where you could turn your wrist and the light turns on. And to me, that's basically the digital equivalent of having really good lume, because at any point I could just, and the other day as I was driving to work, I just flipped my wrist and I had, the illuminated time. And that is just an amazingly convenient feature that I love. Definitely, something that I'm going to be looking at more now when I buy watches than I did before, because now that I have gained both of those features somewhat recently, I realize how much I use them, and I kind of don't want to go without them. So, number three, again in random order, is a legible date or legible day-date window without the Cyclops. And the reason is my eyes fucking suck. I got bad peepers. You guys, if you're on the channel, you already know that. But that's a huge reason why I dislike some watches a little bit, like the Casio Duro. I love the watch itself. It is such a fucking phenomenal watch. But basically my options are have a Cyclops on it where the glare is just death, and I have to shift the watch around really weirdly to be able to see the date, or take it off, which is what I opted to do, and then basically have a non-date date on there. The date is there, but I have to do that to be able to see it, just not super helpful. So to me, any watch like this, like the Bulova Marine Star, that date window is large enough that I, with my bad eyes, can look down at it from here and see the date very easily. Which for me in my job, I put down the day and date, 100 times a day easily. Sometimes 1,000 times a day if I'm doing a lot of charting and scanning that day. So yeah, being able to see the day/date window without a Cyclops is huge. Now the next one is power reserve indicators, and this is not just for automatic watches, because most of the time I see them on automatic watches, or ironically on G-Shocks with solar charging. It's just such a helpful feature. There's watches like this one that I absolutely love that basically I have to stay on top of the battery changes, right? If it tells me that it's going to go 5 years before battery changes, I change it at 4 years because I depend on my watches as tools every single day at work. So I need to know that my battery's not going to run out. So whatever they guarantee, I know they go on the low end, I go on the even lower end. I give it, I cut off a year and change the battery at that point. Just to make sure. But you know what? It would be super helpful and super convenient if it did have that battery reserve indicator, right? So I think all watches, to me, it's just there's no reason anymore to really not have one. There's a lot of very inexpensive movements and watches that do have it. So the ones that you pay a little more money for, like this one, in that around $1,000 range, why don't you have it? Super, super underrated feature. And then kind of ties into that, the final underrated feature on watches is solar charging. And now, of course, this applies to quartz watches, not to mechanical watches, but specifically quartz watches. Solar charging takes out the stress of one ever running out of battery, especially because a lot of solar charging watches, ironically, also have the battery indicator. So I have a visual representation that I don't have to worry about my battery running out, right? So for someone like me that worries about every possibility and sets up like plan A, B, C contingencies, I don't have to worry about it, right? And that just takes a huge weight off my back. And I really appreciate being able to know that my watch is, basically infinitely charged, even with the light of just my work. I had a solar charging Casio Batman, and that one never saw the light of day. It stayed in my locker. I put it on, go about my day at work, put it back, in the locker again and leave. And it stayed on full charge for months just with the inside lights. So to me, it's just the ultimate form of not having to worry about, winding, or not having to worry about switching batteries or anything like that. So to recap, my 5 in random order most underrated watch features are hacking feature, lume / automatic, turn your wrist light, legible date window without needing a cyclops, power indicator or power reserve indicator, and solar charging. So if you guys have some super underrated features that you think I left off the list, or if you don't particularly care for one of the ones that I put down, comment below. I always like having conversations and seeing, the requirements other people have for their use cases for watches. So without further ado, none of this matters whatsoever if you do not know Jesus Christ, guys. Just this morning, I was having a conversation with my coworkers about the wild theories that are coming out now, like simulation theory and, all of these things, which to me, simulation theory is just a cope to not submit yourself to the creator of the universe. It's fucking silly if you really think about it. It's admitting that everything could not have just happened, that we have an intelligent creator, but not wanting to submit under the authority of that, creator himself, who is God, who is Jesus Christ, the one true God, right? So if you're one of these guys who's super into, we're living in a computer simulation theory, stop and think critically for a second, because all the reasons that you think the simulation theory are real actually point towards why God is real, and actually point towards the fact that the world was created by an intelligent creator who loves you, wants to be part of your life, and will change every part of your life for the better. So thanks for watching, guys. Comment down below. Have a great day.